You did good. All right. So, like I said today, this week we're going to cover what it's like to look at psychology as a science. Okay, because we learned last week, I explained last week that we're not a hard science, we're soft science, right? So 1 + 1 doesn't always equal 2. Sometimes it equals 3 or 4 because each individual has a different personality, has a collection of experiences that make things up a little bit different for each one of us. So no two people are the same. They don't have the exact same experience. It's very, very rare, I should say. I don't want to say impossible because nothing's absolute. So with that in mind, as a field, we strive to be as scientific as we possibly can. And we do that using scientific models for research. Now, a lot of you are probably frustrated with APA. How many, show of hands, aren't excited about APA? It's frustrating. It can be frustrating in the beginning. So MLA is a little bit different in that you can kind of use your own opinions. You can read something and go through literature or form your own opinion and state it in a paper. Scientific writing, you can't do that. And the reason being is we seek out truth, we seek out facts, we seek out norms. Okay, so in order to do that, we have to do research. We have to look up literature. We have to find things that substantiate our claim. So, for example, if I told you today that it flooded down in Tennessee, how many of you would believe me? Okay, a couple of hands go up. Why would you believe me? It's in the news, right? Okay, but you would have known that. Now, if I told you that I saw on CNN today that Tennessee was going through some pretty bad flooding, now how many of you would believe me? Probably quite a few more of you, because I just qualified my statement with a source. Okay, and that's what we do with psychology. We try and find our source, or social sciences in general. Again, criminal justice, you're going to use a lot of this. Okay, social work, you're going to use a lot of this. Nursing, biology, anything that has to do with science, you're going to use APA writing and citing your sources. Now, how that looks, I'm not going to use exact quotes. Okay, so MLA, that's kind of what you do when you cite your source. You use exact quotes. We're not going to do that. We're going to take information, we're going to extract exactly what we need out of it, and then we're going to turn it around in our own words, and then we're going to cite the source. Okay. So if you ever get the equaling to put a direct quote in an APA paper, don't do it. It's rarely accepted that way. Okay. So use your own words and then cite the source. Every fact you state, that's what you're going to do. You're going to cite your source. Okay. So today, my plan is I'm going to kind of show you what I have some sources here in APA. How many of you found that in our D2L? Okay, a couple of you. Hands go up. So I'm going to show you what an APA paper looks like, and then we're going to go through and show you how to what an article looks like. I have Jason Gum, Dr. Gum. He's coming in from the library on Thursday to kind of talk a little bit more about how the library can help you if you have research papers. We don't have research papers in here, but if for whatever reason you do get into a class, this is good information to know how to do that stuff. And I'm going to show you briefly how to do some of the databases I'm familiar with. Okay. All right. So just out of curiosity, what are some of your biggest gripes, complaints, or concerns about APA? I saw a lot of hands go up. You're a little frustrated. Yeah, go ahead, Sierra.
Like there's ones that like require to have like a table of content.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a lot of information, and it's kind of confusing if I'm hearing you. It's confusing to figure out what applies to your paper and what doesn't. Good question. Good concern. Now, give me 1 second. So with that, your instructor, your professor, they're going to be very specific as to what they want. So for me, a good practice is always to do a title page. Always, just good practice to do it because you're going to be doing a lot of them. I'm not going to require it for everything. I will require it for the article reviews. You should cite your source on just about everything. So all your papers, you should have like your weekly papers, even if you use your book. Right? Say we're talking about independent variables. You're going to get that information from somewhere, normally your book. If you use an online source, use the online source. And I'll show you one of the generators. I actually tried it on yesterday. I did it with one of my classes, and yeah. Does anybody know who Billie Eilish is? Who is she? Okay. What kind of music is it? Okay. All right. So anyway, I heard about her all weekend, and then I got onto Grammarly. I don't know if Amazon was listening to me or not, but I got onto not Grammarly, citation generator machine, and for some reason pop-ups came up, and it forced me to watch like a 2-minute video on Billie Eilish. I don't know what's going on with that. Hopefully that doesn't happen today. That's one of the generators that I usually use, but for some reason they started doing ads. So hopefully that doesn't happen today. So I'll walk you through that step. So the first thing I'm going to show you. So if you go into D2L, if you haven't done so already, did anybody use Purdue Owl over the weekend? How was that informative? Was that helpful? Okay, all right. Very good source. It's been around for a while. I don't know. I think they updated recently with APA 7, but it's pretty close to what we want. So if you go under Getting Started, screen. All right. So if you go under APA example, did anybody see this one already? All right. So this is not a great visual depiction of what we want because it's just kind of a slideshow. It's kind of wonky, but I'll walk you through it so you kind of have a good idea of what we're going to be looking at for APA style papers. So up at the top, you have your running head. That should be just a brief description of whatever your paper's title. So if it's assignment number 1, just put assignment number 1. If you're using the title page, and then onto your main text. Okay. Pagination, your page number is always going to go up in the right-hand corner. So this is up in the header. And what I could probably do. All right. You have your title block. This usually it's supposed to go in the center of your page. There's some rare exceptions that you're not going to be doing this directly at the center. And that would be if you're doing like an article review, which we're going to be doing. So with an article review, this is going to be the big difference between how you're going to put your reference page and all that. Your article review, you're only using how many sources? You're reviewing, what's it? One, right? Usually. Now, if you want to use other sources, that's fine. You're just going to have to do a reference list or set it up a little bit differently. But if you're only using one source, you can put that source down here in the bottom of your title page. That's really the only time that it's acceptable to do that. If you have more than one source or 2 or 3 sources, you really want to use a reference page, which I'll show you what that looks like here in a little bit. Okay. For everything we're doing in this class, you don't need an abstract. Okay. I'll show you what an abstract looks like. Well, this shows what an abstract looks like. All an abstract is gives you a brief summary of something that would normally be like 3, 4, 5 pages long or longer. Okay. It's less than a page. So it's just a brief, and it's very helpful. So if you're going through and you're trying to find an article that might pertain to research you're doing or a topic that you're covering, an abstract is going to be your best friend because it's going to keep you from having to look through the entire thing. And I'm going to walk you through what a journal article looks like and how that is going to be useful. Okay. What's that? For article review, at least the article. So if you want to use like another, compare it to another article or substantiate something else from your book, you can do that. But you're going to have to cite that source as well. All right, so that's basically what an abstract looks like. Now you mentioned table of contents. We're not going to be doing anything in here that has a table of contents. Something with the table of contents is really going to require multiple sections. So we're not getting anything into heavy into this course. Okay? So then you have your main body, your paper. There are several sections to a main paper. You're going to start off with an introduction. Okay? Why is this important? Why is this important to the reader? Why was it important to research? What was the problem? Okay. So, for example, if I wanted to say, I believe that that suicide rates are higher amongst freshmen than any other class. Okay, that would be a problem. So that's my problem statement. So my question will be, why is it apparent that freshmen have higher suicide rates than class? Okay. Now I'm working to a hypothesis now, right? I'm starting to generate an idea. And basically I'm going to state, I think, or I'm not going to say I think, freshman populations tend to have a higher suicide rate due to isolation and higher stress due to change or something like that. Okay. Now I have something very, very specific, and this is what we're going to do on Thursday. We're going to develop hypotheses, and I'm going to get used to doing that because that's what we want to ground our literature in. That's what we want to develop our research later on. And so anyway, it's very important that we make that hypothesis statement. And that's going to go, so we have our introduction, we have our hypothesis, and then we go into our methods. Now, this is just all mumbo jumbo here, so this is really nonsensical stuff here. But for each, like if I go through and I do a background in literature, see how they have, so MLA, how do they do it in MLA? They just kind of put a number and then a order, right? Is that how they do that when they're citing sources? So it's a little bit different here. Instead of doing a footer, what you're going to be doing is, like, for example, read along here. For example, Oman, Flick, and Estevez, 2001. Okay, so they put the year in there because they incorporated the names into the text itself. Right? Then you go somewhere else, and you'll see that they'll make another. All right, so this is a great example. You don't see this. Okay. All right, to maintain a positive effect in the face of negative age-related change, limited time remaining, physical and cognitive decline, older adults may adopt new cognitive strategies. One such strategy discussed recently is positivity effect. So that is a fact. That's an assertion that this writer put into their main point, into their text. So where did they get that? They got that from Carlson and Michaels, 2005. Okay. Oh, yeah.
So that's their own words, correct?
That's their own words, exactly. Now, if they were to quote them, it would have to be in quotes. Okay. So the whole point in this, folks, is to avoid plagiarism. Okay. So plagiarism occurs when we take somebody's ideas, or we take somebody's words, exact words, and we use them for some kind of personal gain. In your case, it would be a better grade. Okay? For somebody else, it might be to make $1, sell a book and make $1. That's absolutely illegal. So the idea behind this is to keep you out of trouble later on from being into a situation where you might be accused of plagiarism. And it might happen. If it happens, don't freak out. Somebody usually, unless you and they can show that you did it, that it's pretty common to get called out on plagiarism. But it's happened to me twice, and it was just a matter of earlier on when I didn't know that you weren't. That's the way it's showing. Okay. So now you know. So anyway, so what we can do with that, with Carlson and Michaels, the end to the reference page. Find it. Okay. You will be able to find that source. Okay. That's a reference page. I'll get to that in a minute. All right. So anyway, and as you'll see, I'm going to show you an example of what a peer-reviewed journal is, a professional journal article, because they can be overwhelming. Some of them can be up to 20 pages long, and it's ridiculous. I seize up when I pull up an article that's 20 pages long. But the abstract, again, it's going to be your friend in that. So anyway, we got through our why is this important? We got through our introduction. We got through our background, our literature review. Where did we picked and pulled from a bunch of sources and said we believe this to be the case because we know that in normal populations, isolation leads to depression. In normal populations, high stress leads to depression. Okay? We know these things. We also know that freshmen are encountering or enduring a lot of these stressors. So now we have 3 concepts that we can put into our background. Once we get our background, we restate our problem. Why is this important? And then we do our hypothesis. We state what we think we're going to find. And again, I'll show you how all this looks. So anyway, that's pretty much the meat and potatoes of what your main text is going to look like. And again, you can see these can be pretty verbose. They get pretty long and pretty boring. But once we get to the end, our last page is going to be a reference page. Okay. So we list our references. I'm going to show you. Once you learn how to do this, you're never going to forget it because it's really super easy. There are some tools out there that can help you, like the citation generator. That's a very useful thing. But for me, it's a little bit more cumbersome to do it that way than just to look at the book. And I can just write these out in a couple seconds. Whereas you got to go to the site, you got to enter information. It's kind of a pain in the neck. So anyway, as you can see, the basic formula for this is going to be you have your authors in the order that they're listed on either the book or the journal. Last name, first, middle initials, okay? And then you're going to have the publication year in parentheses. After that, you're going to have the title of the article or the book. If it's an article, you can put in italics after that. You're going to put the name of the journal, the volume of the journal, and the pages that it can be found. That's it. Not too hard, right? Not too difficult. And the more practice you get with this, the easier it's going to be. Okay. Each one of these references, they're listed alphabetically according to the last name of the first author. Okay. So Anderson. You can do this later. So if you want to just collect a bunch of your references, put them in the format, and then go back through and rearrange them to a place where it's appropriate alphabetically, you can do that. It's probably the easier way. I usually have like 2 documents up at one time one with all my sources, and then I alphabetize them. I just move it over so I can keep track. Okay. And that's pretty much all I'm going to go over as far as what an EPA paper. Now they're going to go over like facts and figures and stuff. I don't want to overwhelm you. I don't want you to absorb too much. So title page, you know, I showed you what the abstract looks like. I'm going to go into that a little bit more here in a bit. And what the reference page or the body of the text of the reference page look like. Okay. Any questions so far? Anything you want me to go over again? Was it too fast? Was it just about the right amount of information? I'm tired. All right. So let's go to citation generator. Watch Billie Eilish. All right. Create a citation. You can do it like, again, you can use Purdue OWL. I'll show you how to format, like whether you're using videos. We have movie reviews coming up. Cite the movie reviews. It's good practice for you. Okay? There are ways you can do it. You can either use a citation generator or use Purdue OWL and look up. It'll tell you exactly how to format a video. Okay? We'll find the information before to cite that source. So let's say we want to cite our book. All right. What's introduction to psychology? Watts is the author. Okay. 2022. Who has a book here? First, what year is that? I still have yet to get one. I still have a problem with my account. Oh, really? They're still trying to figure it out. So, are you able to?
Yeah, it says 2022, comma,
What's that?
2017.
It was published already. Okay. All right. I don't understand that. That's the first time I've seen that. It is 2021, right? I slept right this weekend, by the way. I think I slept a year. But anyway. So in order to cite that, you just hit the cite button and it asks you to verify the information that's going into this. You hit continue. You can add different information in here if you want, or just take what what they give you. So first name James, no initial, this all looks good. Citing the whole book. Cengage Learning here 2022, and then you hit complete citation. And what that does is it spits out the exact format that I showed you, right? So you got your author, you got your year, you got your title, you have the publisher. Okay, pretty simple. Let's get a little creative. Let's try another one. Try the journal. Let's see if this comes up. All right, so this is going to be a journal. Yep. So this falls under like Journal of Abnormal Psychology. So I'm going to pick this one just as an example and cite that. Again, it's going to review all the information. I'm going to continue. I'm going to give you an option to put good example. That's spelled right. Complete citation. Oh, God. We're gonna have to watch Billie Eilish. Darn it. Let's watch Billie Eilish. I don't even know what that is. All right. We're gonna do it. Please don't be anything offensive. All right. Does anybody have another citation machine that they use? Has anybody ever tried one before? Is this the first time you've seen this? What have you used? Does it do this? Does it bring up ads all the time? For the past couple of years. Okay. All right. Oh. All right. So now let's spit out another citation for us. So we can copy citation. And I'm going to come over to my Word document and paste it. Okay. Now that looks great, right? So this is, by the way, many of you will hear me refer to hanging intent. You all see this? This is a hanging intent. It's inverse of what a regular intent is, that we normally see in the beginning of a paragraph. Okay. And the reason for that is just organization. It sets the reference page apart from everything else. Let's see. So let me go back to each machine. I also want to copy this over. Copy citation. You can see it already put that in alphabetical order. I probably could have just copied the whole page. So I'm going to paste that over. Okay. And that looks great. That's good. Everything's in order, except we got one little formatting error. Pick up on it. Double space. Very good. So we want to double space. This should actually. Oh, it's going to mess up my. So just a quick quiz. What font and size font? Exactly. Times New Roman 12. I should have said this ahead of time with no spacing because we don't want any additional space in here than what's absolutely necessary. So that's Times New Roman 12. Double here. And then I'm going to go to which you can achieve by right-clicking on all the text and hitting paragraph and hanging it here. Okay. All right. The only thing I'm missing right now. That's it. That's all we need to do a reference page. How do you feel? Yeah. Okay. And I'm going to have this video available after today, so you can reference it and see how we got through this. All set. All right. So one more area I want to cover is familiarizing you with the library. All right. So if you go into, how many of you have been to the library? Okay, the online ones too? Familiarize yourself with that? Okay. So if you go, for those of you who haven't, and again, I'm going to have Dr. Gum here talking on Thursday a little bit about how they can help with research projects in the future for you. But you go under library, and databases for research. Now, this is where you're going to get your articles for your article reviews. Okay. If you find another place that you can get them, you're welcome to do that. But for all intents and purposes, this is what we're supposed to be using. I actually found a hole in it yesterday that psychology journals, a lot of psychology journals just give abstracts, which is okay. Because what that'll do is it'll let you know what articles you want, and then you can maybe take those somewhere else and see if you can find them free on the internet. So if there's something that, like a source or something that you want to use, you can certainly do that. And like I said, Jason will be here to talk about that for you. So let's see, so when you go into the EBSCO database, did you all see, or I went EBSCO web? When you go into the database, it doesn't really, it makes you select which sources you want to pull from. So as you can see, they got newspaper sources here, they got business sources. Business sources aren't going to apply to this, so we're not going to use that. Medline, probably not. Regional Business News, they got a lot of business journals here. So Funk and Wagner, New World Encyclopedia, maybe. Library Information, Science and Technology Abstracts. If we were just looking for abstracts, that would give us what we want. Health Source, maybe. Health Source, Academic Edition, maybe. Topic Search, For psychology, there's not a whole lot in here. Teacher Reference. Applied Science and Technology, maybe. Education, full text. General Science, full text. So anyway, you just kind of pick through here and figure out which ones you think are going to get you. Social Science, full text, that's probably one that I want. I think that's really about it. Trying to get access, many of you know, I'm new here. I'm trying to get access to psychology articles, psych articles. It's a really good one that I use a lot, but I don't think that I'm going to see that in this semester. So anyway, let's stick with our depression teens. All right. So teen childbearing and depression, pregnancy, attitudes matter. Might be one I want to go check out. Teen depression and suicide, effective prevention. And many of you probably heard me say this in the first week. I'm very interested in suicide prevention. Why do you think that is? Why, as a psychologist, would I be interested in preventing suicide? What's that? The experience? Yeah, I don't want it to happen. Right? That's like the worst possible outcome for that homicide. Right? So you'll see me reference this a lot because that's the ultimate outcome that we want to avoid. The more we understand about it. So you'll see me do a lot of references to depression and suicide or homicide or something like that because those kind of things are counterproductive to a thriving society, right? Would you all agree? So anyway, you can pull up the full text and it looks something like this. Okay, and this is actually not a good example. Yeah, so this isn't a great article. This is kind of just like a So you can narrow down your search. Full text. Is that the one I just looked at? Let's try this one here. Okay. So this one looks a little bit better. This is a little bit more useful. So remember when I said that every scientific journal or research paper has different parts listed. There are different parts of be concerned with. We want the introduction. Why is this important? We want the background. What information do I pull from to come up with my conclusion, my research problem, and my question? And then I develop my hypothesis below that. And then I say, okay, now I know what I want to study. I know why I want to study it. And I know other ideas that are out there. How am I going to collect my data? That goes into a section called your methods. Okay. But before I get into that, you have your abstract here. So say I am looking at that. So I was looking at teen depression and suicide. Okay. This doesn't really fit that bill, but maybe there's something in here that I want to use. So all I have to do is really read the abstract. Go through the abstract, see if there's something, prevalence of depressive disorders among teens. Okay, that sounds like something I could use. Increasing trends. Okay, so they're talking about trends in teens. I could probably use that in my paper. It's going to make it a little bit more robust. The more sources you have, the more robust your and informative your paper is going to be. So I'm going to go ahead and use that. Now that I have an idea that this is probably something that's going to help me, now I can kind of go through and pick and pull from this journal, this article that I want. Okay, and this one's actually not too bad. Some of these wind up being 20 pages. You're going to see that you got a lot of tables and stuff in here. But based on that one piece of information, I can go through the results of the discussion, and I can say what these authors found about teen depression and suicide, and then put that into my paper and cite that source. Okay? So when you're going through that, obviously, if you read through this abstract and it doesn't sound like something that you want, you don't have to go through this entire journal. It's actually kind of pointless and a waste of your time. But now you know, based on the abstract, what the preview is going to be. It's kind of like a movie preview, right? You see a movie preview that doesn't look that interesting. Are you going to spend money to see it in the theater or rent the DVD or Amazon or iTunes or something? You're not going to do that, right? So that's kind of what the abstract is. It's your trailer for what you're about to see in the rest of this. All right, so the other sections I talked about, the significance or the introduction. Why is this important to you? Why is this important to science or society? Okay, they give you a background. As you can see, they're citing a lot of sources in here because they're building their story. They're building their up to why they're doing what they're doing and creating a problem statement. So you've got a pretty significant background here. Some are longer. And then once they state, and sometimes it's hard to pick it out. All right. So it said, in this study, we examined the association of depression among adolescents, mothers, adverse birth outcomes with large data set. We aimed to examine the following. So right here is what their hypothesis is. That's what they're examining. Okay, it's usually right above methods. Y'all read that. So there it is. Right after the background, right after the introduction, they state their hypothesis, what they're doing. The purpose of this study is to what? Examine these factors. So then they go into a method section. The method section just says how they're collecting the data, how they're getting participants, maybe their recruitment strategies, how they're randomizing them, whatever. What assessments are they using? Are they using surveys? Are they using double-blind experimentation? What are they doing to collect the data? So that's all methods. Okay. I can go through each one of these. Study design, I think that's still part of methods. It's like an extension of that. I don't usually see that in here. But after you go through your methods, you're going to talk about what you analyzed. So they use analysis package. I'm not going to go into that. After that, they're going to tell you what the results were. What did they find? What was collected, and how did that fit into their research? Okay. They don't really talk about whether they supported their hypothesis or not. But what they're going to talk about is just the raw data that they collected. Okay. And that's where you see all your tables and figures. Pretty dry stuff, right? Don't get overwhelmed with this. I still look at this stuff and it's overwhelming to me. So I'm just kind of breaking it down into smaller pieces for you to digest. Okay. After the results, now you can go through and pick apart these things if you want, if you understand it. And have any of you had statistics yet? Okay. A couple of you? Okay. So most of you probably aren't going to understand what any of this terminology is. Don't worry about it yet. Okay. Don't read too much into the methods and the analysis and the results, because you probably won't get that until you get a stats class or research methods or something like that, research design. Where you're going to find the most valuable stuff is in the discussion. What did they find? They took all those results and they put it into language that hopefully many of us can understand. Okay. So go through this, and this is where you're going to find they support their hypothesis or reject it. Okay. And then after that, you're going to have your conclusion. Conclusion just wraps up everything. It goes back to the original introduction. It talks about that, and and wraps it up. It finishes it. You have your references that we talked about before. Okay. All right. Any questions so far? Did I lose anybody? No, it's a lot. That's why I want to hit you early, so you're ready for the rest of the semester and the rest of your classes. Are any of your class doing APA stuff? I'm the only one. Wow. You'll get it. Trust me. You'll get it. Okay. So what I'd like you to do is maybe get in groups of about, let's do that again, like 4. So U4, maybe U4, U3. That's 3. So what I'd like you to do is go through the steps and pull up an article similar to this, something that has methods, has introduction, methods, results, and discussion and conclusion. All right, see if you can find, maybe it's something you're interested in. Maybe it's something your group just kind of comes up with a topic and you want to see it. But see if you can pull up an article and go through those and identify the hypothesis, okay? See if you can pick apart the hypothesis. So this is giving you practice. So not only finding journal articles, but figuring out what these are aimed at. All right, give you a couple minutes to work on that. Steps. The entire library. All right. How many groups are done? It's still working? You're done? Okay. Show of hands. How many groups are done? All right. So we're kind of running up on time here. I maybe use maybe two examples here. All right, I'm going to see if I can find them in EBSCO. So what group in the back? What did you use? Yeah, APA site. Oh, okay. What was your article? Mental health. Stuff on here. So there's search strategies, and that's something that Dr. Gum is going to show you. So impact of COVID, that one there.
Yeah, it's in Japan.
It's in Japan. Okay. Okay. So I'm having a hard time pulling that up. I'm not going to spend too much time. So what did you? What was the hypothesis for their research, their paper? Were you able to locate it? Okay, so that was the problem. So what their hypothesis was, did you locate it? It's usually, did you see like a method section? Did it show a method section? Okay, so this is probably like just an article that you can probably get information. And those articles aren't bad. I'm not saying the only ones you got to find have the introduction methods. You can use any publication you want as long as it's credible. And Dr. Gum is going to talk to you a little bit more on Thursday about what's credible and what's not credible. Okay. So while those aren't bad, those are kind of just informative articles. They might take research from all sorts of articles and then they create a story, something that is going to be a little bit easier on the eyes and more easier to follow when you're reading them. So again, that's something you can use if you want to write a paper or something and include that in there or do an assignment. Okay. All right. So how about this group? What did you find?
Article about an experiment. Had some students do assessment kind of they had project based.
Okay.
Like those, they followed those students throughout the next few semesters, and they found that those things were actually research. It's a little deeper into the information.
Okay. Okay. Were you able to pick out like one or two sentence hypothesis statement?
That's the conclusion.
Okay. What does it say, like the sentence right before methods? Do they have a method section? Go ahead and scroll. Oh, you just got the abstract. Okay. And again, so they probably want you to buy that article. You know, you don't have to do that. Don't anybody buy an article unless you want to. Unless you're like Friday nights, 40-watt light bulb, sipping scotch and reading journal articles. Yeah. Yeah, it's supposed. So the abstract again is just your movie preview. So this is kind of telling you, this is kind of like one of the upcoming movies that you can't get unless you subscribe to Netflix or something. So your abstract is telling you what the preview is, what you're about to read in that long paper. But without some of them, say, well, unless you buy, subscribe to the article, you can't see the whole thing. That's kind of the point of it. But if you get that abstract, and then again, Dr. Gum is going to probably show you how to take that abstract or take that title and request it through the library. That's going to be super helpful for you if there's something that you're interested in. Okay. All right. All right. Are there any questions? Kind of running up on time here. How'd y'all like? Was this informative or was this a snoozer? Yeah, yeah. But now you know. Now you know what challenges you're going to face when you have to do your article review. Okay, so if you have any issues, like start fleshing that out now. Think about what articles you want, and then let me know if you have any issues, so that way we can flesh it out before you get to your assignment. Because I promise you, Sunday night I'm probably not going to help you. Okay, so get ahead of that. If there's nothing else, have a great rest of your day. We'll see you here on Thursday. Try and stay cool, stay safe.